Hi all, it's Cel, and recently on Discord I was asked if I would do like a chat type deal on how I think Dragonflight or Modern World of Warcraft feels in its current state right now. So before I jump into this, I am a former cutting edge healer, guild recruiter, guild leader, Mythic Plus key pusher. I'm a current raid lead for Heroic. And I've done all this content since Mythic was introduced way back in the Warlords of Draenor or WoD. I'm not going to talk about PvP at all. I don't do a lot of PvP, and I've not done any PvP since, what's the water one before Shadowlands? Battle for Azeroth. I think one of the biggest problems I have this expansion is how like casual things feel. It's nice to not have that feeling to log in and grind every day, because if you miss a day you're gonna be behind. If it's like you're always chasing like a better power, like that's nice. But this expansion, I've not felt the desire maybe to log in and do these long time sinks, do these long grinds. A grind shouldn't feel like, yes, it's finally over. It should feel like, yes, I'm getting this piece. Like, it shouldn't feel bad. It should feel like I got things to do and I want to get this done before the next whatever comes out. In Shadowlands, the grind was that anima to get the cosmetic pieces, to get your outfits, for your transmob, maybe get some pets or mounts or titles, and I felt like Dragonflight missed their shot on that. Like, I didn't do any of that extra stuff. I didn't want to. I also feel like gearing is very easy to do. Like, we're at the end of this tier now, and I've got geared characters, and like I'm running Mythic Plus keys, and like I'm failing a 20, but I'm still getting a really big piece of gear in my vaults, or I'm able to go and craft tier right away because it's later. So like if you're Mythic Rating, you're getting that gear right away if you're lucky to get mastered to you, or if it was personally whatever you're doing. If you have like luck on your side, you can get that gear earlier. If you've got bad luck, you're still going to be waiting with the other players that aren't rating at that level. You have to wait for them to trade you something, or you got to run keys. And I think that's part of the problem with Mythic Rating, is that concept. If you want a Mythic Raid and you want a Mythic Raid at a high level, you have to be running keys, and not keys like +5. You need to run the maximum key that's going to give you the maximum gear to help your raid, because you need that gear to like nerf the bosses by having that power. Key inflation is very real. Like right now, if you don't time a 20, you're getting that big piece of gear, you're getting a lot of score for it, and like your Mythic Plus score is very inflated. And I think they made a mistake by giving so many points for failed keys to people, and all they do is keys, and like 3K sounds really big, and like it's bigger like score than I have. I'm not pushing keys. I don't see the desire to push keys past a 20. Like if you get your portal, if you time a 20, you get a portal, that's great. But what's the incentive to keep going? Unless you're gonna go for that title, which you're already at like the 1%, which is getting dominated by all these meta classes. So should that title be changed to being the top 1% or whatever the percent is of the specs? Like, what if you put a Holy Priest in there versus a Disc Priest or a Resto Shaman that could do all this damage? Or like, what if you took the best Warrior tank versus the best Vengeance Demon Hunter tank? That Vengeance Demon Hunter tank is gonna have that 1%, but that warrior can be playing very well for being a warrior, but they can't do as much as the Vengeance Demon Hunter tank is doing, or whatever the meta specs are. Like, what if that was a way to incentivize people to want to do more dungeons outside of that, to push for more titles, to make that more accessible to more of the player base? Also, like, what are the rewards? Like, I almost think to get like the highest item level or equivalent item level of gear you would get from like a raid, you should have to be clearing like 25s, or like if they're gonna do raids where like the beginning bosses give you this item level, but your end bosses are gonna give you item level that's like 5 or 10 points higher, to get that cap, that really high item level, you need to be doing a much higher key. Because like there are players, and I'm one of them this tier, I've not set foot into Mythic. If I have never done the raid in Heroic, why am I as geared as these Mythic cutting edge players that are grinding all this out. Like there's not a, like something feels weird about that. And I think that's something that needs to be looked at. And maybe it's something as simple as, okay, so Mythic players, you're going to get a different set of tier. So Mythic players are only going to get tier sets that work within dungeons and in like the real world. And if you're a raider, you're only going to get your tier that works in the raid and in the real world. So that way there's not the same overlap, and maybe frees up, do you need to spam keys in order to raid, or can you just do these raids? I think raiding in general for Mythic is dated, and I think that that 20-man mentality, I've said this for years, is hurting the game. Because I think if you had a 10-man option, and don't even start talking about, oh, but you have to change the difficulties, you have to change how much damage is going out. Don't just think, if you had a 10-man Mythic and a 20-man Mythic, would it be easier to form a 10-man group to be able to have schedules lined up, not have as much guild drama that's happening, and keep you invested in playing the game longer? I don't know the ins and outs. That's something that would need to be talked about somewhere, or like giving different numbers for Mythic. I don't think flex will work in Mythic. I think you need to have like a set number. So 20, 15, 10 is rough because of all the buffs, but what if buffs became more passive? Or like, what if you get buffs via scrolls and like use your crafting material that way, so that you have inscriptions or scribes that can do stuff for the raid? Goes to my next thing. I think crafting in Dragonflight was a huge swing and a miss. I think it's great you're trying to think of what to do to keep people and players engaged with crafting, but why are we overcomplicating everything? Like, it's such a hassle, and it's confusing to have to like go and get gear for enchanting to try to get your rank 3 of this or your rank 4 of that. Then you got your crafting orders, but you need these materials, what's going to cost you like 50k, which for some players is nothing, for some players is a lot, to get this piece of gear created for you. Like, I would rather professions be simpler, like they were back in Wrath, where you just go around and you pick flowers and you can send enchanting scrolls to other people. And like, it should be like a fun thing to do, where you can have multiple characters with different professions, also help you make some gold if you want. Not every player plays to make gold, and I don't think we need to overcomplicate things. Again, looking at your currencies you can get, like right now you have to farm 5 to 9s to give you this currency to upgrade this gear, and then it's like 11s to 15s or something, and then it's 16 plus to get this currency. Oh my god, why can't you just run this content, accumulate valor or doubloons or one set of currency per tier, and then you can upgrade that gear? Or have like a vendor like you could have in Wrath, where you can go buy specific pieces of gear to help gear yourself out. Like, simpler is, I think, better. I don't know why it needs to be so overcomplicated. I also think in terms of gear, like if people are trying to think of, okay, well, if gear is too easy, then like let's have less of it drop but different stats on things. Bring back reforging and let reforging help people min-max, and they can get that one piece of gear that, oh, hunters don't want, there's no haste on it, and only Og one. I don't know what Og Walkers need. But like, I'm just saying, if there was a way to get a piece of gear that you could reforge your stats on to use it and not it being wasted, like that could also be something we're looking at. These long content droughts feel the worst when there's not a lot to do. And I know that in our Discord, our community, I've read people want to see like raids of 2 or 3 bosses, no trash, just like a little extra bit of content to do. And that's a great idea. I also think another idea that might not feel like such of a waste is if there was a way to bring back a raid like Ulduar or Firelands, but turn them into like, here's a raid tier you're gonna do. Like Fated Raiding, I don't think is fun, and I think that's hard in a lot of guilds because people don't want to clear a raid they just cleared 6 months ago. Like if you brought back, let's bring back Ulduar, we'll bring Ulduar in on Mythic, where you have all of these bosses to look at. Like that could be so fun for an actual Fated experience, since we're getting Fated dungeons, which for Mythic Plus are all these different ones that we've had from like different expansions. Bring those raids back in where people can do them again. Like Ulduar has such a great experience for so many people, which goes into like my next thing. should there be like a Mythic Rating? Do you need to have so many weak auras and different add-ons to this, and this? Like, why are we overcomplicating raids and making them extreme? Like, it's not even difficult. Like, you can have it's hard, sorry. It is hard to do the raids. Let me rephrase that. But why do you have to make them where your guild dreads logging on because they don't want to do these fights that are so overcomplicated that they have no reason to be? You can be a hard, challenging fight and still have that sense of like, yeah, let's go with your team to keep you invested logging in. But there are so many guilds that don't want to raid, like the T-Swift fight. Guilds don't want to re-clear that. It was not fun for them. And then you have fights from other expansions like the Casualness fight. It was so long, and for what? Like, some of those fights, they're so long, they're not fun. The players don't want to do them. Like, you could simplify things a little bit and let people just play the game and play their games at different levels. Like, I think raiding needs to really be looked at in some capacity, and to what, I don't know, but it needs to be, because players are not enjoying it. Healers don't enjoy healing NPCs. I also think the vaults, I was a huge, like, I loved the vaults at first. And in theory, it's a decent idea. But when you open your vault and you're so excited, you need a few pieces of gear and you get like 3 cloaks that you also had the week before that you're not taking, there needs to be some sort of bad luck protection, or the game needs to be smarter. Like, if you're opening that up as a disc priest and you open up a thing that has versatility and, say, crit versus a haste mastery piece, like, there's gonna be some things you're like, why the higher item level, do I take that? Nope, I want none of this stuff. Like, I think the game should be smarter to like look at things. Do people really like the legendaries we have now, where like this last one could only go to like paladins and DKs, I think, and warriors? The weapon, which was like a huge process to, once you get the quest item, was like a huge process to go and get it and cost you money. Or like, should we be looking at legendaries to go back to how we had for like Ulduar and Firelands, where like less people had them, but they were also available to more people to work on the quest at different points in time? Like, think of the staff from Firelands. If the quest was not limited to one person, you downed a boss and everybody could get whatever they needed, like that currency for it. Would that be a better legendary system than what you have now? Like, as a healer, there's not been a good legendary for us, I don't think, until Ulduar? Since Ulduar, rather? Like, why are we, again, constantly, we put these big items in that don't do a ton. Like, they're not a mind-breaking fun experience for people. Like, what do we do to fix that? Also, the lockouts. We're still living in this mythic raid lockout where, like, if I set foot into your group, I'm now saved to 4 mythic bosses. I cannot go help or try to plug into another mythic fight. I'm locked for the week. Get rid of those lockouts. Make mythic feel like how heroic and normal feel, where that lockout doesn't exist. You can go help your friends and be loot locked to the boss, sure, but I should still be able to do those encounters and have cross realm open from day one. Maybe that would help guilds that, like, if you're not, say, a top 100 guild, you're always struggling to fill that roster. So how do we fix that? Like, what is the step? So those are kind of like my thoughts for the time being. I think that there needs to be something fixed for PvE endgame in terms of Mythic Plus and rating. I don't think the 20-man Mythic model is still serving its purpose aside from your top guilds. And once those top guilds have cleared it, the rest of your player base feels like, what about us? What else can we do? You either do heroic and you clear it for 5 months with not like and the gear isn't as good as the Mythic Plus you're running. You try to do Mythic, but you don't have 20 people on your roster. Like, what is the solution here? I don't know. But I would love to know what your guys' thoughts are, how you feel about Dragonflight. And is Dragonflight, are we all just like looking at it through these pink tinted glasses because a lot of folks didn't like Shadowlands? Or is Dragonflight, does it have a lot of flaws in it that we just haven't as a community want to really acknowledge? But I would love to know what you guys think. If you could leave me some comments, I would love to just like read through them, maybe put them in the next video or something fun. But thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And remember, wash your damn balls.